on Radio Free America. Gather around your radio, ladies and gentlemen. Gather around your iPhone, your Android. If you're in the car, turn up the volume. If you're at the dinner table, put down the silverware. Whatever you're doing, let's have a talk. If somebody wants to be president of the United States, they have to earn it. They're not handed it. They're not handed it. You want to be a quarterback, you're not handed it. You want to be the most powerful person in a business, you're not handed it. You want to win the Teacher of the Year award, you're not handed it. You want to be rich, you're not handed it. You want to be famous, you're not handed it. You don't get the presidency handed to you by hiding from the voters. You don't hide behind a corrupt media, Democrat mouthpieces, and campaign surrogates. Men and women have fought for the right to vote, and they have died. Men and women have fought for representative government, and they have died. The founding of this nation, the revolution, was over representative government, the right to vote, the right to choose the people who will serve in the government. The right to choose the people who will serve in the government. You don't have a right to hide from the voters and the citizens. This isn't about you and your party. We're not interested in what your mouthpieces and your surrogates have to say. We're not interested in what the media have to say. We're not voting for them or against them. You want to be president of the United States? You don't get to camouflage your views. You don't get to talk through spokespeople, press releases. You need to mix it up. You need to meet the people. You need to be clear and precise about what you believe, what you're going to do. You need to explain yourself. Kamala Harris, who the hell do you think you are? To disrespect the American people, all the people. To hide behind shibboleths. Or you're the first potential woman president, the first potential black woman president. You don't get to hide behind race, hide behind sex, hide behind the media, hide behind billionaire oligarchs who are funding your campaign. You want to be president of the United States? That's president of all the people. Act like it. Act like it. If you want to nationalize our healthcare system, come out of the fog and say it to our faces and explain yourself. If you want to nationalize the drug companies and snatch their patents, then come out of the fog. We have a right to know. That affects us. You want to control food prices? Then defend your position. You don't get one shot and then you run away. You're anti-cop, anti-border patrol, pro-criminal, supported a bail outfit that literally bailed out murderers and rapists. We have a right to hear from you now, right now, before we vote. Right now. What do you mean you want a 25% wealth tax or an ownership tax? Explain yourself. Explain yourself to Americans who own homes or small businesses, who want to know what that's going to do to them, or even big businesses whose employees want to know how that's going to affect them. You don't get to play hide and seek, rope-a-dope, catch me if you can. You're running for president of the United States. People in this country have fought for the right to vote. We've had a civil rights movement, a successful civil rights movement, to eliminate Jim Crow, poll taxes, literacy tests, to eliminate racist voting rules that prevented people from voting. Voting isn't a simple mechanical act, a ministerial act. Oh, I get to vote. Why is it important to vote? The act itself doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything for Hamas. It doesn't mean anything for Putin. It doesn't mean anything for Un and Xi and the legacy of Castro and Maduro. Vote, so what? Voting only matters if it matters. That is, voting only matters if you know what you're voting for or against. What kind of cockamamie campaign is this? You have an individual who, more than any other candidate ever running for president, has an obligation to present herself to the American people since she's been nominated in a process that is the most undemocratic process in American history. In American history. The Biden campaign in 2020, they pulled this stunt. They pulled this stunt. The uniter, I'm going to save democracy. I'm not Trump. The most radical president. The most radical policies in American history. By Mr. Moderate, centrist, I'm going to unite the people. The Democrats figure it worked once, it'll work again. And they might be right. But this is spitting in the face of the greatest republic on the face of the earth. This is spitting in the face of the civil rights movement. This is spitting in the face of 1776. Representative government. Representative government means voting for people who share your principles and beliefs and values. They're smirking at us in Washington, D.C. They're laughing at us in Washington, D.C. They know exactly what they're doing. The Democrat Party oligarchs, the billionaires and the millionaires, the dark money, they know what they're doing. The media corporations and their employees with their faces on TV, their voices on radio, they know exactly what they're doing. Just because you vote doesn't make it a democracy. Ask the people in North Korea. It's a democracy when you have a vigorous campaign, when the issues are laid out, where you reveal rather than conceal what it is you actually want to do. If your policies are so unpopular, then you're going to lose. The only reason Kamala Harris is running a campaign like this is her policies, many of them are un-American. Anti-law and order, anti-Supreme Court, anti-border, anti-capitalism, right down the line. Secret meetings with Islamists. There's a large percentage of the population who are not tuned in and will never be tuned in. They've been indoctrinated either by their family, by the press, whatever it is, to vote a certain way no matter what. They've been lied to about the history of the Democrat Party, which is an evil, inhumane, contemptible history. Kamala Harris doesn't get to hide from us. She doesn't get to spring her policies on us should she win, God forbid. That's not democracy. That's not republicanism, small r. You don't get to say, vote for me, and then you'll find out what I believe. Like the evil fool Nancy Pelosi insisted when it came to Obamacare. We are a free people. We are an engaged people, many of us. We're an educated people. If not formally, it doesn't matter. We're smart. We have common sense. We've been through a lot of elections, and we've been through a lot. And we want to know, here and now, what Kamala Harris is going to do to our healthcare system. We want to know here and now what she's going to do to the availability of food and those who produce it. We want to know here and now what Kamala Harris is going to do on our border, if she's going to give illegal alien citizenship and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. We want to know now, before we vote. Not after the fat lady has sung. You have to earn the presidency. You don't get to create images. I see the media's telling us this is going to be a historic speech tonight by Kamala Harris. How do they know it's going to be a historic speech, Mr. Producer? Because it's going to be given by a woman who is black, the first nominee of a major party who's a woman and black. They're not going to talk about how she became the nominee. They're not going to talk about her rope-a-dope campaign. They're not going to talk about what she has said in the past and how she's concealing it today. Doesn't matter. That speech is historic no matter what. The party and media pronouns, all of a sudden, they're into women. I'm sick of the propaganda. I'm sick of the brainwashing efforts. I'm sick of the racialism. I'm sick of the sexualism. I'm sick of it. Everything but substance. Everything but facts. Everything but reality. All these things that are going to affect your lives and the survivability of this nation as a free nation, they're concealing from us. You have to earn the presidency. You don't just walk on the field and say, look at me, I'm joyous. And we know she's not even joyous. 92% of her vice presidential staff resigned. They were leaking like sieves. Some of them on the record, some of them off the record. She's apparently hateful, angry, a yeller in person, dumping, using the F word on her staff. You don't get any sense of that during this so-called convention. Let me ask you a question. You're smart. What have you learned during the course of the last 3 days that you didn't know before? You learned nothing. You've seen dancers. You've seen singers. You've seen politicians. You saw the Obamas, who every 4 years pop up, give their Marxist claptrap, and then go back to making millions. What did you learn? What have you seen? Nothing. Zero. This is a Potemkin convention. What's that mean? A phony convention. She's the nominee. They made her the nominee 2 weeks ago by virtual voting. Never done in American history. They didn't do it because there's COVID or a pandemic. They did it because they didn't want a debate on the floor of the convention. They didn't want a challenge from a Kennedy or a Stein or anybody else on the floor of the convention. She's been handed this. And you haven't learned anything more since, and if they have their way, you won't.